All right, let's talk about one of the most intense and honestly misunderstood books ever written, Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. Now, a lot of people think of it as this grand, sweeping romance, right? But it's so much more than that, and a whole lot darker.
Yeah, this is no fairy tale romance, that's for sure. It's really a story about obsession, about revenge, and how trauma can echo down through a family. And that's what we're going to dig into. We're going to ask that central question. What is it that takes a love this passionate and twists it into something so incredibly destructive?
Okay, so to really get this book, you have to understand the two places at its heart. They're total opposites. First, you've got Wuthering Heights. Think wild, stormy, raw passion. It's all about nature and chaos. Then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, there's Thrushcross Grange. This place is all about civilization, order, and, well, keeping all those messy feelings buttoned up. And really, the whole story is about the collision between these two worlds, the wild versus the civilized. It's what makes everything tick.
So how do we even enter this world? Well, Bronte doesn't just start at the beginning. Nope. Instead, she drops us right into the middle of a mystery, seeing it all through the eyes of a total stranger. And that stranger is a guy named Lockwood. He's our way in. He rents the nice, proper Thrushcross Grange and decides, he should probably go visit his landlord over at Wuthering Heights. Big mistake. What he walks into is, well, it's not a friendly welcome. It's a house full of tense, angry, just deeply miserable people. And he has absolutely no clue what is going on. At this point, neither do we. It's a total puzzle.
Lockwood is just completely thrown by all this hostility. He's got to know what their deal is. And to figure out this bizarre present, we've got to go back, way back into the past. And for that, we're going to need a storyteller. And this is where the book gets really clever with its structure. It's basically a story inside another story. So Lockwood, our outsider, ends up getting sick and is just stuck inside. He's dying to know the backstory of this strange family. So he asks the housekeeper, a woman named Nelly Dean, to spill the tea. And she does. She's the one who takes us all the way back, about 30 years, to where it all began.
So Nelly Dean is our guide. She's seen everything. And this is a huge but. Can we really trust her? Can we take everything she says at face value?
And that question leads us to this fantastic literary tool, the unreliable narrator. See, Nellie isn't just some fly on the wall. Oh no, she was right in the thick of it. She's got her own opinions, her own judgments, and she even messes with things herself. So this huge, tragic story we're about to hear, it's all coming through her filter. And that means we, the readers, have to be detectives. We have to constantly ask ourselves, what really happened? All right, so let's dive into the core of Nellie's story, which is really the core of the whole book. We're talking about a bond that is so intense, it's less like love and more like a hurricane, a force of nature that just destroys everything in its path. Nellie's story starts with two kids, Catherine Earnshaw, who's this incredibly spirited, wild girl, and Heathcliff. He's a mysterious orphan boy her dad just brings home out of nowhere. They're both kind of outsiders, and out there on the wild, empty moors, they form this connection that's deeper than anything. Deeper than family, deeper than society, it's elemental. And Catherine says this one line that just sums it all up perfectly. I am Heathcliff. Think about that. She doesn't just love him, she believes they are literally the same person. Their identities are completely merged. We're not talking about a healthy relationship here. This is a total, all-consuming obsession. And that obsession leads to the absolute disaster that blows up the entire story. Catherine is caught in this impossible choice. Her heart, her soul, her wild side, it's all Heathcliff. But her head, the part that understands society and status, is telling her to marry Edgar Linton, who's rich, respectable, and civilized. And she makes a choice. She chooses Edgar. She chooses society over her own soul. And that one decision, it just brings ruin down on everyone. Heathcliff overhears her saying this, and it just breaks him. He vanishes for years. And when he comes back, he's a completely different man. He's not the victim anymore. He's rich, he's powerful, and he is laser-focused on one single thing, making everyone pay. And he becomes this classic literary figure you might have heard of, the Byronic hero. You know the type, dark, brooding, incredibly passionate, and totally rebellious. He lives by his own rules, and he takes all that fiery passion he once had for Catherine and twists it into this cold, methodical plan for revenge against both her family and the family she married into.
And his revenge is just chillingly systematic. This is not a crime of passion. First, he goes after Catherine's brother, Hindley. He exploits Hindley's drinking problem to bankrupt him and take over Wuthering Heights. Then, in a truly cruel move, he marries Edgar's sister, Isabella, not because he loves her, but just to make her suffer. And he's not done. His revenge spills over into the next generation. He manipulates their children, forcing them into marriages, all to get his hands on every last bit of their property. So Heathcliff basically creates this world of pure misery. And that sets up the big question for the second half of the book. Can this awful cycle of hate and abuse ever be broken? Or are these families just doomed to repeat the same mistakes forever? And this is where we see this incredible contrast between the generations. You've got the first generation, Catherine and Heathcliff, whose story is just this vortex of obsession and destruction. But then you have their kids, the next generation, young Cathy and Hareton. And with them, you finally get a little bit of hope. They manage to find a totally different way forward, one based on compassion and healing instead of just pure destruction. See, Heathcliff had deliberately made sure Hareton grew up rough and uneducated. But Cathy, even after everything she's been through, she teaches him how to read. It's this act of kindness and education that helps him reclaim his humanity. And the love that grows between them, it's nothing like her mother's and Heathcliff's. It's not a storm. It's gentle, it's healing, and it suggests that maybe, just maybe, Wuthering Heights has a future after all.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, Wuthering Heights is just massive. It's about how love can curdle into obsession. It's about that constant battle between our wild, natural selves and the rules society tries to box us into. It's a deep dive into how revenge and abuse can poison families for generations. And on top of all that, it's a critique of the class system and the power men held back then, all wrapped up in this spooky, Gothic package with ghosts and storms mirroring what's going on inside the characters.
You know, it's easy to forget just how radical this book was for its time. When it came out in 1847, people were horrified. Victorian readers expected their books to have good guys and bad guys, a nice, clear moral lesson at the end. And then Bronte gives them this. A story that's brutal, passionate, and where it's impossible to say who's right and who's wrong. They just had no idea what to do with it.
And that really brings us to the big lingering question, doesn't it? After everything, is Wuthering Heights a story about an eternal love, a love so strong it can't be stopped even by death? Or is it a terrifying warning about what happens when love becomes obsession? The amazing thing about this book is that even after all this time, there's still no single easy answer to that question.